Incredible! This is
The Grove Podcast.
Hello, my name is Tabs and welcome to episode 143 of the Grove Podcast. Thank you for listening. I hope you're all doing very well. I know I certainly am, and not just because of the Arsenal, but also because today was my last day at work for the year. So mince pies and Hallmark movies from here and in for me. Anyway, we're recording this Thursday evening, a little under 24 hours after Arsenal's latest 3-0 win against Club Brugge in the Champions League, making it 6 wins from 6. And we are comfortably top of that table, as well as the Premier League. We've guaranteed top 16, pretty much. We're pretty much guaranteed, we guaranteed top 16. We're pretty much guaranteed top 8. And I think we're 1 win away, even potentially just 1 point away from guaranteeing top spot to at least top 2, which is quite important, as it gives us home advantage through to the knockout phases, and the top 2 can't meet until the final. So a lot of guarantees there. Unfortunately, there are no guarantees that we'll make the final, but let's see. But what I can guarantee you, now you'll see what I've done here, is a great pod this evening, or whenever you're listening to this, and that's because I've got 2 excellent guests with me this evening, and they are Kuziva. How is it going? And glad to see you've got your priorities set straight and we're able to make it this evening.
Hey, what's going on? It's been a busy week and I nearly didn't make the pod, but I said to myself, I'm not saving lives. I'm actually not about that. So we only got to chat about Arsenal.
Indeed, it's always the better option in life, And Jamie, how are you? And have you recovered from last night's hot off the pitch live stream mayhem?
It was just really good fun watching you try and read things at the same time as talking/listening. It was just absolutely phenomenal, Tabs.
2 out of 3. That's all I can manage. And Meatloaf said 2 out of 3 ain't bad because, and unfortunately, Jamie, I did fall down on the listening bit. But that's fine. That's what I had you there for, just to keep talking the good stuff. Anyway, talking of that, last night Jamie and I kicked off our new hot off the pitch post-match instant reaction live stream and pod, which, was a little chaotic, but as Jamie said, a lot of fun. And even my son, 19-year-old son, said it was fun. And I said, given he's 19 and nothing I do particularly impresses him at that age, it's I think for me it's a massive compliment, so I'll take it. And thank you for those that were on the live stream and interacted and trying, as Jamie alluded to, trying to keep up with the chat was another story, especially with some of the nonsense being spouted. And Grovers, you know who you are. Anyway, it's available on YouTube and the usual pod apps if you want to go back and have a listen. We hope to do more of them in the future. They're sort of meant to be shorter than our main pods, a little less structured, which is well out of my comfort zone, as these 2 guys can attest to. But it's a bit more of an emotional, immediate response to the game we've just watched. Primarily, we'll do them for games that we don't attend, and we'll try and live stream if possible, as long as I can get to grips with the technology and learn to slow down and do 3 things at once. But there we go. Watch out for those. And but anyway, on to this evening, on to today, we'll take a look back at the game in Belgium, which it had quite a few interesting talking points coming out of it. And then we'll look ahead to Saturday's late evening kickoff against the whimpering Wolves. Before we do that, as always, if you can follow, like, subscribe, leave us a rating on the apps, that would be really appreciated. And anyway, enough of that. Let's get on with the show. And Club Brugge 0, Arsenal 3. As always, your highlights and lowlights. So, Kuziva, what is your highlight and lowlight from the game?
My highlight had to be the rotation and the win. The fact that we can rotate like that is always great. Having a midfielder at centre back, Miles getting some time in, and just honestly no Rice and Timber on the bench. That's just beautiful. That's a highlight. And then low lights, I guess Gyökeres not scoring. I have soft place for that guy, and I want him to score. I want people to pass to him more, but it's fine. We'll chat about that later.
No. Let's talk it in. But it now we've got it. So I also had that, not as my main low light, but Gyökeres not getting a goal. Any concerns with his performance? From last night. Is there anything sort of underlying that's an issue, or can it be sort of explained away?
I mean, I think He's just a very different type of striker to Marino and Marino and Jesus.
It's funny how we're comparing him to our non-striker.
Yeah, ultimate striker. And I think,
in fact, and sorry, before I interrupt, he's actually now a better striker than a midfielder, if you ask me. But anyway, that's another story.
I think we need to just provide him with more distribution. He needs to get more chances or more passes to feet, and he needs to figure that shit out. I saw a video on Reddit yesterday when he turned Gabriel and then like outpaced Saliba. We know he can do that. Granted, we are playing, a lot of low blocks, and it's a struggle with a player like that who runs behind. But yeah, I think there are more opportunities to give him passes. We saw yesterday when Jesus came on, they were just trying to feed him a goal. And I want to see the same for Gyökeres. But I don't feel like there's anything wrong. At the end of the day, he's a 65 million pound striker. I was checking on Wikipedia. He's not even in the top 65 of most expensive transfers. So is this what we get for a 65 million striker? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I think we've said it plenty of times. He at that money, and with Havertz, he was always going to be a supplementary striker. He was not going to be the main man at that price. And I think good value, even cheaper. It might be 65 million euros, so about 55 million quid. So yeah, he was not meant to be the main man, but injuries have forced him into that position. And look, he was doing quite well up until Burnley. But on that comparison with Jesus, so online they're all going, look, Jesus comes on, he had 3 shots in 20 minutes or half an hour, and Gyökeres didn't do anything. Jesus is already better than Gyökeres, and he's been out with an ACL. And Jamie, do you think those sort of comparisons are a bit unfair given when he came on and the game state?
In this particular game, I think I said last night, I think it's unfair, I think, to use this game as the one to beat him with a stick over. I've kind of beat him with a stick a little bit for the 2 months that he was playing in the first team, to be honest, and just said I appreciate a lot about him. I love his work rate. I love a lot of the things that he can do, and I think he's good pressing forward, and I think that can really benefit us in certain games. And he will run his heart out, and for that reason, I will sing Victor Gyökeres' name and enjoy whenever he scores and what have you. This is not like a bad signing under the Wenger era, which tended to be geezers that either just could not play football whatsoever.
There's no Marianne Chirac.
People who like to run in straight lines and only straight lines, like Saka Kolasinac, the most two-dimensional footballer I've ever seen in my life. But anyway, aside from that, so he's not that level, and he's not somebody that doesn't try. So I can get on board with supporting the guy. But do I think long term he's going to be any kind of game changer for the Arsenal? No. I think what he is, and I think actually it was interesting. I listened yesterday to the Tuesday Club that are kind of back and doing the rounds, to mention another pod, and the kind of Alan Davis at one point made the comparison to Eddie Nketiah and said, "Oh God, have we just gone and signed basically somebody who is as good or worse than Nketiah?" Now I don't think that's the case. I think he's better than Eddie Nketiah.
Yeah.
However, I think it's an interesting comparison because I think it's not a huge lift. And what it isn't, he's not graded Nketiah in the respect that we now have a better backup that can probably play against a slightly broader spectrum of opposition and give value in different games in different ways, in a way that Eddie, I think, quite often would struggle with. He could be very good in some games and was really poor in others. I think Victor will give you something different to different opponents. He'll be a bit deadly towards your Leeds or your Forest or whatever it is that we could do with him scoring those goals against. At an Old Trafford or an Anfield, he'll run his heart out and be a great pressing forward. And he'll do a bit of a job. I don't think personally that we desperately needed that profile, but I do think it's a very handy one to have. He has augmented the squad. Just, is he going to be a huge value add? No, it's not the kind of transfer that wins you trophies. It's the kind of transfer that bulks up your squad and helps you. In the time that we've needed him, Kai Havertz is my number 9. Kai Havertz has been out.
So we have needed him, and look, we're top of the league, and he's part of the team that's got us there. I think the comparison with Eddie, I think that's maybe more an output, but he does so much more. He occupies defenders. His work rate means that others are freer. You see yesterday, our wingers are freer and stuff like that, which Eddie just never. He was never someone that people would worry too much about. He could go out wide and have a bit of pace, but Gyökeres is just hassling defenders. Look, we signed him to score goals, and I think maybe again where we haven't seen him is that these big games comes on for the last 20 minutes. Havertz has done his bit for 60, 70 minutes. He comes on 20 minutes, fresh pair of legs, bodies people around. We just haven't experienced that, and I'd love to see that. I'd love him to be that flat track bully. If he comes along and scores goals against the easy teams, they need beating as well. So, and then you compare him to, and people are making comparisons to Jesus, but Jesus is very different. He comes deep, he gets the ball, he will make something for himself, and that's just who he is. So, I understand the frustration because he's still looking a bit clunky, still looking clumsy. Output is not there, but I'm ready to still. Well, we've got no choice, and I think he's going to be a big part of our success this year if we do get that success. So I'm not going to be too down on him. So
and Jesus
Jamie,
was a starter for Brazil and in multiple title-winning City teams, played quite a valid contribution. There's no doubt how good Gabriel Jesus is. So the comparison between the two, I'm always going to say Gabriel Jesus is a more accomplished and better all-round player. But at the same time, there are matches I think that Gyökeres will suit us more in than Gabriel Jesus does, because there were times that Gabriel Jesus, whilst playing as a 9, just didn't look like he was up to it as a 9, right? Yeah. So, the only player I think who's been complete and able to take on any given opposition and dominate them is Mikel Merino. But no, and beyond that, then there's Kai. Again, Kai doesn't suit us in games too. He drops a bit deep. He does the Bergkamp stuff. Blah blah blah. He is the most all-round option, but in all seriousness, having the choice now, I think this probably will be Jesus' last season. But in an ideal world where you had the choice of going between Jesus and Gyökeres, I think that's a fantastic couple of players to be rotating in 2 matches with Kai Havertz, bringing on certain impacts at certain times. I even love the idea of having a Gyökeres there as much as anything, so that at times you can go 2 up front.
Yeah, well, I was just about to say,
we didn't have the bloody option to do it at any given time, do you? When you're chasing the goal, and it's like, well, have we got a striker on the bench? 17-year-old or something, and that was about it.
Well, I was just about to say, the little and large option up front, you could imagine Jesus and Gyökeres being quite a formidable partnership up top. Just what you put them together and they make the complete player. The size, the stature,
there's
the
little
trickery,
Bergkamp right there, right? Just not a very good right, unfortunately, and a not quite Bergkamp. But there's a touch of that kind of old school. Yeah.
But you could see that happening. Those 2 as a front 2, because also because he's traditionally a former winger and stuff like that. So his ability to make obviously goals for other people is trickery. You could just see him dinking around, far post cross. In comes Gyökeres to help finish it off. But so Kuziva, we'll touch on Jesus now because I was going to talk about it later. But now we're talking about how happy were you to see him back? I mean, he's been out for 332 days with an ACL injury. So how pleased were you to see him back, and what do you think he can bring to the team, and what can he offer us for the rest of the season, touching poor Micah that he stays fit?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as we heard that he's training with the first team, I was like, when is he coming? When is he going to start? So seeing him start yesterday was just, man, he's a very talented player. Like, as Jamie said, this guy has been part of title-winning teams. That first season when him and Gyökeres came through, they elevated our game, right? So having that option, when you already have a Gyökeres and a Kai that's coming back is just, we in dreamland right now. Mine is what's happening at the back, but that's a story for another day. But chuffed to have Jesus back, and he will bring us something totally different to everyone else. And I think we need that.
But what he
frustrated us, hasn't it? That's probably the key thing, and this is the bit you forget about sometimes. Is like the last time he was in a decent run in the side, how many times we were going, bloody Gabriel Jesus.
Well, I was just about to say, what he will bring, like every other forward we've got, is frustration. So that's what he's got in common with every centre forward we've got. Is frustration.
But he's fresh again now. He's like a new signing. He's
like,
excited.
Lands,
great.
Lands.
It's the good old like a new signing, isn't it? And it's
anyway.
Lovely.
Good to see Jesus back in time for Christmas. But anyway, did you hear how he managed to get into the Champions League squad? It was like the fact that there was a behind closed door friendly arranged to get him up to speed, to get him some match fitness. I think
against United,
against United, and then Max Dowman, welcome to Arsenal, got injured. I think he's done his ankle ligaments, and he's out for 2 months. There's a question mark whether Jesus paid someone to do that, but that's the story for another day. But so Jesus took his Champions League place. To be honest, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't realise if players get injured, you could change them. But one person's misfortune is another person's fortune, and maybe I think you would prefer to. I mean, we've only got a game against Inter and Kairat, so I don't think it really matters too much. But it gives him more minutes, gives him the chance. And look, he was pretty excited to come back. He said everyone was expecting me to score, and obviously I wanted to score. Had some opportunities, 3 of them. But even with that, I'm so happy and so pleased because to come back and then had to have some touches that I had tonight, and then the way I could move, the way I could keep the ball. So he was really happy. And he's you can see he's an emotional guy. He may have the World Cup in mind. Why not? So that gives that extra incentive. So let's see what he can bring. I mean, the more the merrier, we can say, because we can know how quickly the wheels can fall off. So to you, Jamie, what was your highlight and low light from last night's game?
Highlight. I mean, I've talked about the Madueke bangers, so I will probably then just say the other highlight was at the end of the game with Gabi Jesus being kind of very, very emotional looking. He did that sort of walking around and kind of seeing and kind of really taking it in, and just this sort of absorbing the fact that he's back on a football pitch again, right? And just all the lads around him giving him a big hug and loads of enthusiasm for him. So that's nice probably that. If yesterday my instant reaction was the Madueke, my collected one, and having rewatched the TNT Sports video about 3 times, is that one. Nice.
And low light? Any low light? I mean, don't have to.
The fact that I watched the entire game live on a mobile phone screen, because I refuse to. I've got Discovery Plus on my phone.
Okay.
And I couldn't work out how to mirror it onto my laptop, and I refuse to pay for a separate subscription to bloody BT Sport. So at least until in the knockouts, I'll pay for big screen then. So I was watching it on a phone was definitely my massive low light.
First world problems.
To the extent that I then went onto the laptop to Twitter accounts to see the goals when they were being replayed.
In detail. Yeah, indeed. Well, yeah, and those were the highlights, to be honest. Okay, for me, I'll start with my low light, and similar to yours, it wasn't related to the game because look, come on, we win 3-0 away to Bruges comfortably, etc. It's not no, but I just wasn't able to stay on top of the game properly because I was too busy preparing for the live stream and practicing with that and getting that tested. So, and you watching on a small screen, we make a right duo, didn't we? So, but we managed to get by. Highlight. You could say no injuries apart from Madueke's finger, but didn't stop him scoring. I think an aesthetic highlight was with Noni's shot. It hit the crossbar, underside of the crossbar. Now, any long range shot that ricochets off the crossbar just goes up, tenfold in terms of how cool it looks going in. So please for that. And I don't think I've ever come across anyone that goes, no, I prefer it to go straight in. It's off the post. The twang off the post is always a beautiful thing to listen and see. And then not related to that, but another sort of musical version was the Martin Zubimendi song. So I don't know if you heard what they were singing to the tune of Wham or George Michael's Last Christmas. I'm not going to sing it, but the end line is, and we'll give it to Zubimendi or whatever like that. So go and listen to, when you listen to Last Christmas, which I'm sure you will do over the next few weeks, you will find the perfect place to slot in Zubimendi. So there you go. I thought that was quite a funny highlight. So on to the lineup. As Kuziva just said, there was rotation. Any thoughts about the lineup? I mean, no Saliba, still unsure what's happening. No Timber, hopefully just fully resting rather than too much. I think Rice had a case of the man flu. I think he maybe just blew his nose, and Arteta goes, right, you're not going. Any excuse not to take him. And Trossard seems to re-injured himself. But the biggest thing was Nordgaard at centre back. So, Kuziva, you were mentioning the rotation. What did you think of the lineup, and what were your thoughts with Nordgaard at centre back?
I wasn't surprised, honestly. Because I was so desperate to rest Timber and Rice. I think Rice might have the super flu that's going on in London. Anyways, so
it's PR flu.
So it felt like the right choice simply because people before the game were saying he's played it before. So I'm glad that we saw it live, and I know you probably saw it when you're watching your favorite team on the other side of London.
Well, I did check with my Brentford friends, and they said he had played. He said they played centre back before, but in the Championship, so a similar thing, coming in injured. So he'd done it before.
Yeah, but I mean, not too surprised. It's a really good opportunity to rotate, and we did. So yeah, pretty standard for me.
Yeah, I mean, my only other concern was maybe Ben White, 390s in a row, but he seemed to sort of survive that. But yeah, with that, and we had 2 new centre back partnerships yesterday. I think taking it to like 8 or 9 so far this season, which is absolutely nuts. But yeah, I think the main thing we wanted, no Timber, no Rice, and as for the rest, maybe it would have been nice to rest Zubimendi, but I think we had to go in with a level of strength because Bruges, they've got a decent home record, or can score goals. So and it's that back line is a bit pick and mix. So you need to have some protection in front of them. You can't just let it all hang out, as they say. So yeah, I think we're all pretty happy with that in the end. So in terms of the stats, yeah, it was fairly even, 51-49 possession. But from an expected goals point of view, we're doing it again. We are scoring the amount of expected goals. So we got 299 yesterday to their 1. We had 20 shots to their 18. We had 11 on target to their 7. And I think there's the stat going around that's the most shots on target we've had this season, but also conceding 7 shots on target is the most we've conceded this season. So a bit ding dong there. We had 5 big chances, took 3. Well, no, I was going to say we took 3 of them. I'm not calling Martinelli's and Madueke's big chances. We missed 4 of them. There we go. And yeah, so sort of relatively even in terms of the stats, other than we scored and they didn't. So Jamie, what was your overall? Now that you sort of had a look back and had a thought, what's your overall thoughts on that game, on that performance, how it panned out?
Same as last night, pretty ideal. Pretty happy about it. I wanted us to get a commanding win, but then also, have that ability to rest up. And when you combine the two, fabulous, And they looked a good opposition, and they have been a good opposition for other teams this season. And I think they've been unfortunate enough. All of their games have been against teams in the top 8, pretty much, haven't they? They've been a bit unlucky with who they've come up against, but yeah, I thought we managed a game in an environment that might have been tough given the number of absences, and we did so really well. And we had more fluidity than we often have done on these European rest nights when. The games that you're going to win, but you do so very cagily. And we've had a lot of those nights, and this is probably the key thing. We had a lot of those nights where the resting up players has ended up with a Saka, Odegaard, White, or something like that. Is one that I remember being a bunch of Champions League games. They'd rest the right side, and with the 3 of them, take off some of the superpower guys, and go on then, guys. You should be able to go and get a result here. We haven't. And then we've had to bring on that kind of pod on the right-hand side to win the game. We have had a bunch of those over the last couple of seasons, including in Carling Cup games and all sorts, right? And that wasn't the case here. We were able to actually bring in guys, certainly in Jesus, and where you're reintroducing him from injury, you're able to bring on Calafiori in a way that probably seemed like it might be a decent bit of a benefit to him to get a bit of time at centre half, as we said, and then even bring on yet another literal child at the end as well, in Marley Salmon. So that's a massive plus for me. Doesn't need to be massively entertaining. Just get a result and feel comfortable about it, and don't have anything panicky, And that second half, going ahead so early or doubling the lead so early in the second half was key to that, right?
Yeah,
that was the knockout blow. Yes, they looked like they could, potentially have a goal or 2 afterwards at times, but nothing majorly concerning. You just move on.
Yeah, you mentioned Marley Salmon then. Yeah, game state. We this season, I don't think the game state hasn't been as such that we've been able to make certain changes. We've always had to manage out games, and we haven't had that as much as we wanted. But yeah, I mean, he was 16-year-olds, 16 and change. He came on over the last 10 minutes. Can play centre back, right back. He played right back yesterday. And 16 years and 103 days. He's the youngest player to see his Arsenal debut come in Europe. A record previously held by Paul Vazin, a blast from the past. 16 years and 346 days versus Leipzig in 78. And I thought this stat was really cool. was that only 3 players have played for an English club in the Champions League aged just 16 or younger. All of them are Arsenal players: Wilshere, Dalman, and Salmon, and he's the 4th youngest Arsenal player ever. So that's pretty cool. What about you, Kuziva? What did you make of yesterday's game and the result and how we played?
I mean, as Jamie touched on, these guys, they weren't a bad side at all. It was still an away game in Europe. And by looking at their previous form in the Champions League, they can score goals, right? So I didn't expect an easy game, but it's really good that through us rotating, we didn't lose. And we took our chances. They took a lot of shots, which is not normal. And I think it's probably the first time a team has taken as many shots as they have.
Tied with, I don't know which other game, but seven is the most we've sort of had let on target. Yeah,
but I mean, our quality showed, and that's the great thing about having the squad. We were chatting earlier about the 3 striker options. In the midfield we have. There isn't a massive drop off. When you're dropping from Saka to Madueke, scoring a banger that's hitting the post in. So challenging game, but we showed our quality, and that's all you can expect, especially after the disappointing Aston Villa trauma. Let me not call it anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I'll touch on that in a bit. There were elements of the Villa game in this, especially in that first half. But like you said, they've scored 7 in their 2 home games against Monaco and Barcelona. So and they scored 6 against Rangers at home, in qualification. So there are no mugs in front of goal. So actually keeping them to 0 goals with a makeshift back 4 is pretty good. And overall, I think the game was bigger than we thought it would be, just because of consequences. 6 wins from 6, clean sheet, pick and mix defense, no injuries, stunning goals. We didn't really stress ourselves, so there's a lot to like about that. But I feel not just the positioning in the Champions League, because there isn't just what this results mean from a Champions League perspective is that we can go away to Inter and that's a free hit, because we just beat Kairat and we're pretty much, as I said, guaranteed 1 and 2. And Inter falls between Forest away and Man United at home. So therefore, chance for rotation in both those games, and then we go and take Man United out. So I think the result was quite important for that perspective, because it gives us freedom in the new year, but also gives us freedom in the new year because we're not going to be playing in those sort of 2 extra games. But I think not only that, but also, as you said, much needed rest. We gave minutes to players, to build up their match fitness, to build up resilience. The likes of Jesus, Odegaard, Gyökeres, Ben White, MLS, who's going to play against World, Nordgaard, and you got these players coming back from injury who aren't primary players, but they're going to be important down the line. They'll play against Palace in the Carabao Cup. They'll play in the FA Cup. They'll play Kairat. So I think that's really, really good for them. And actually, what was really nice from yesterday was from Madueke. So we've got all these players, and injuries have meant there hasn't been an issue around squad harmony. But I think when we get the players back, I don't think it will be an issue, because Madueke said, look, we're tight. I feel like that's the main thing. We want each other to do well. We know that there are loads of minutes for all of us. We know that we have top players everywhere in the squad. So it's about all of us as a collective. It's not really about any individual. And we know that we all have a part to play. So that's a good thing about this team. And you can see that camaraderie. You can see that kinship and stuff. So how do you feel about that Jamie? How do you feel about that Jamie in terms of how we are as a squad, how that will pan out for the rest of the season? You look at teams like Chelsea, where harmony is I don't think a word in their vocabulary.
It's been there for a long time, hasn't it? And I think it's one of Mikel Arteta's strongest assets appears to be man management and cultural and kind of management and of a culture. Really, he's put a culture in place at the club, one that you could probably argue has been lacking forever, really, since the days of the last Invincibles left, which were probably the last guys that left the club saying that there was a culture there of some kind. Anything you heard post that point was more in reference to the club's history or what have you, and then a little spell where, in fairness, Arteta and Mertesacker were renowned for kind of reinvigorating the culture somewhat and being the disciplinarians in that kind of era of Arsenal team. And maybe that was maybe that's a precursor to what he's done as a manager. He seems to understand what it takes to get players to be dedicated, professional, and to do the suffering for each other, which is his buzzword, but it seems to work, right? And it's an interesting one. I don't think it's a managerial style. I honestly sometimes, I don't know whether you feel this way, but I sometimes think I've worked with Mikel Arteta and I don't enjoy it at all.
Yeah, but then again, you're not a young professional athlete, so
I know. But I mean, I've worked with some very ambitious guys, and I love working with ambitious guys that want to pull me along with them. But some of these ones with the non-negotiable stuff, you just, you know what I mean? It can get a bit.
It's not designed for us.
I
know what you mean. We've all been in those meetings. We've all been in the bullshit bingo and all the rest of it,
Absolutely.
But we're not the target audience.
Well, that absolutely. And in fairness, these are a very different bunch of characters, and you communicate into guys of a bunch of different nationalities, cultures, cultural heritage, and
you forget how young they are.
And ages.
They're also young,
but also ages. You got to deal with a 15-year-old, which admittedly is not a problem for everybody. You got to deal with a 15-year-old, and you've got to deal with in fairness, actually, not very many that are more than 30. But
exactly. So
the odd one that's
30 in my book is still quite young. So
it is in mine as well. He does, unfortunately. But he does seem to have the knack of it. So yeah. I think that's where you point to for it, and you say what he's instilled from that level, and it probably helps that he's got 1,000,001 support staff, and he's got a good cop and a bad cop, and a very bad cop, which I think is Gabriel Heinze.
And they love him. They love him.
And they've got the guys that we saw it in the Amazon documentary. The young guys as well that are even about the same age as the team themselves. So whatever it is, that team will absolutely bleed for each other, and they do seem to have a lot of harmony. The bit that I think that's going to be really interesting for him, and the challenge for him and the senior leadership within the squad, because I think that's part of it as well. Your Martin Odegaards and your Bukayo Sakas. Saka seems to be a by example guy, and Odegaard very much as a vocal leader. Is going to be what comes of this really big squad when more of the players are fit and there are genuine selection choices to be made, and there's the potential for some players to get to the point where they need to make a move out of the club, not because they're on the fringes, because they're not performing whatsoever, like a Zinchenko by the end, but actually just because they really need a bit more football than we're able to provide them with. And that's kind of an interesting challenge, I think, that is coming. We're already kind of there a little bit with Martinelli. If it weren't for his age, then Lewis Skelly as well. There are a few lads that probably will be in that position. Ben White's another one as well, and they are all being very good soldiers at the moment. You compare it to Mo Salah throwing his toys out the pram over being left on the bench a couple of times when he's been playing shite all season. And fair play, they're being great, good soldiers and saying what they need to say, and nobody seems to kick up a fuss. And even as Zinchenko never seemed to have a bad word to say, did he? So hopefully that goes well, but it is going to be interesting to see. And to see whether we do at any given time get some of those murmurs coming out of the camp, and this guy's not too happy, and there's a bit of division there, or one lad needs to be sent away to train with the reserves or whatever. That's going to be an interesting challenge for him. But at the moment, things seem great.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got the one season with this. Really, this is the season to do it, and then maybe another season. But you're right; these are professional footballers who want to play. That's their primary thing. Ben White could go to Man United, earn a ton of money, get starting every week. It looks like they're lifting out of their stupor, but so that sort of thing. But we'll see. I think
White needs a couple of years in Bournemouth, mate. I just feel like Ben White and Bournemouth is just
eventually once he's 30.
I mean?
Once he's 30, he's going to finish his retirement somewhere hot and sunny. So that's where he's going.
I mean, that is the other option. Is he goes out to Real Mallorca?
He's going to end up at LA Galaxy. I promise you, that's where he's ending up.
Surely Miami. Miami.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
See Ben White in hot pink. Come on.
Maybe. I don't see him as a grabber granny kind though. But there we go.
It's just going to turn Mallorca into Love Island. It's going to be great.
Anyway, moving swiftly on. So that first half, it was clear that we were the better team. But obviously, with the rotation, it took us a while to find our fluidity, but that was to be expected. One concern, and look, we were the better team, and we pretty much did the majority of it up to the 30 minutes. But then after 30 minutes, you could see, I don't know, it got very, very Villa-esque, and they also were attacking very much down our left-hand side, and it felt MLS was exposed. I think Forbes was a constant threat. Ray was having to make saves. We were scrambling around. We were a bit ragged. Last minute, we lost the control of the thing. But particularly, I want to just ask you, Kuziva, about MLS. What are your thoughts on him? He seems to be struggling a little bit at left back. Are you concerned at all about his performances, or can you explain it?
I don't know if I can explain it. I mean, I think the thing that most people just fall into, or the reason, is he's not getting enough minutes. And I think for a young player, that's really important. And Nordgaard, I expect you to come on and perform, at the age of 30 plus, because you've been in the game for a long time. Because I think MLS just needs minutes, and it is still a very challenging and high expectation type position. Before Timber moved to the right, he was starting a little bit on the left, and then Calafiori came and he just elevated the game. So, like when you have players like that who can show up the way they do, kids like him are not going to get minutes. But I mean, in the game yesterday, he won the most duels, and he contributed to the assist. So, I mean, he's not doing terribly. Like, he's still 19. He's still a teenager at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about him. I think looking at the bigger picture, he will get his minutes, and a season like this, you need to count on everyone, and he's one of those players, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, he's still only 19. He's a centre midfielder, still converting to a left back, and I think you were touching there. The left back is the most complex role in our team. It's sort of like doing 2 or 3 jobs there, so him having to adapt, trying to learn when you're not getting the minutes. Calafiori's, that's his position, and he's doing a great job there. And it's that difficult second album, as they say, and he surpassed all expectations, 1,000-fold last year. And I think it was a bit too much to expect that he would just continue in the same vein, because it's a bit more of an exposed position. It's a bit evolving under Arteta in terms of how he wants, and it's where those, it just being irregular there means more than how, if you're playing left wing, you can come in and out. If you're a tricky winger, you can come in and out, run round, get past players, cross the ball, and there's going to be someone in the box. Playing that position, it's a toughie. So, and look, I think he got the minutes yesterday because he's also playing against Wolves. So again, get a bit of momentum. Because Calafiori's suspended for the Wolves game, so it should be sort of two. I think he's learning a lot. Put it like that. Again, yesterday was a learning. I think Wolves shouldn't be too much of a challenge, but again, I'm sure it'll be an opportunity to learn. And I think Wolves will also try and target, if they're going to try and do anything. That's where they'll target. So let's see. I'm again not concerned for his long term, but interesting to see what happens when we've got a fully fit squad. So would Hincapié be playing left back rather than instead of Calafiori if we need to make a switch at left back? We haven't seen how Arteta really wants to operate this team yet because of injuries. And so if we had our full team, I would suggest Hincapié would even be ahead of MLS at this stage. I don't know what you think, Jamie.
Probably, yeah. I mean, I think I've said before, me signing Hincapié, it felt maybe that we were looking for MLS to either go out on loan or to get more minutes in midfield and be accepted as someone that can play left back, and also that would start to get a bit of time in midfield. I'd love to see him get a bit of time in midfield, by the way. I think that would be great. I would just add to the one thing that I think hasn't been said about the difference this season is that he played pretty much all of his minutes last season with Gabriel there, at least at the start, and that we are lacking our defensive organizer. So whilst individual contributions have still been quite decent, when you've got a Gabriel talking you through the game, that's been playing in that system for years, played with a bunch of different left backs there, and is talking to you, keeping his distance with you, and is also about as good a damn player to cover for you as you might potentially need, is a massive difference, right? And almost any fullback regardless of their years, is taught through the game to a certain extent, right the way up until they're older by their centre half. So that is another thing for me, is that even aside from prior to Gabriel getting injured, I think he got minutes when Gabriel was rested, and there was I think that's a part of it for me.
Yeah,
I would say
that makes sense.
Judge him a little bit more when there's a stable and communicative left centre half next to him, and that's a more fair evaluation versus last season.
Yeah,
but I must
sense.
admit, I do think the Nketiah signing for me is the clearest sign that we might have other plans for him.
Yeah,
which don't necessarily mean he never plays left back.
No,
it just means he might be transitioning back to midfield a little bit more.
And it's great to have that option. So there we go. But anyway, it was just a sort of, I think it was just noticeable. But before Bruges sort of got a bit of a stranglehold on the game. I mean, they I got it down here. It was 34 minutes Bruges shot blocked, 37 minutes Forbes shot, 39 minutes Stankovic shot, 43 another shot, Rare saves, 44 saved by Rare for Stankovic. But before that we were winning 1-0 and Madueke, well, it just came from just nowhere. He sort of received the ball from the right-hand touchline on the right, came in, went past two players and just smashed it right foot really hard. So it hit the underside of the bar and in. And it's great to see that he's got that in his locker. And we see a lot of direct running from him. He's a bit of a chaos merchant, and he seems to have been having limited end products. So he still needs to sharpen up, and especially in terms of his decision making, like we saw that against Villa. But he will be a valuable player for us. He can give Saka rest while also being a threat himself. So it was nice to see that. Unfortunately, the goal was spoiled because I was a bit behind and I saw a message come up going, "Wow, what a goal!" Okay. So and like 2 minutes later, I see what you're talking. But yeah, so it was good. And we seem to be pretty good at long range shots in Europe. I'll come to a stat later. But as I said, Bruges got back into the game and they must be thinking, okay, same again, second half. Let's try and push them. Let's try and get the equaliser. And I think like we did against Prague, we were very quickly 2-0 up. And Madueke again, Bruges switched off from a throw. But Zubimendi digs out a beautiful cross. I thought it was really good, and I just thought it was so good. It was, people were like complaining that the goalkeeper could have done better with defenders. No, it was the trajectory and the proximity to goal just made it so hard for them to deal with it. And then Madueke is there at the back post, I think, for the easiest goal he'll ever score. So and pleased to see him there. But that was and I think that was game over, would you say, Kuziva?
Yeah. I mean, it's always good scoring just after the second half. So I mean, in some cases you do end up, winning. Well, some cases you don't. But it was the best way to start the second half. And we joke a lot about balls being put on a plate. And this time that was on a plate. Like, it was quite literally harder to miss there. And I'm glad that he got 2 goals. As you said, his output hasn't always been great. He does a lot of, he's really busy, really direct, but he needs to be scoring those. So I hope that gives him confidence. Zubimendi, superstar. What a perfect cross from our DM, left wing position. Great.
Yeah, no, really good. And look, Madueke is the first player in Arsenal history to score each of his first 3 goals in a European competition. Let's hope he can translate that to league. But also, he had a really good evening. I think in most duels won, he said, like tied with MLS. He had the most shots, most take-ons, most shots on target, and the most goals. So I think, I think it was one of his better, or if not his best performance for Arsenal to date. And then very soon afterwards, about 10 minutes later, Martinelli goes, "Hold my beer," and he comes along with a spectacular goal, and very un-Martinelli goal. I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen him score. If he's not running through the middle, chasing onto a long ball while like load of defenders are running after him. I don't know if it's a Martinelli goal. So that was a great goal. Which was Jamie? Which one do you think was the better goal?
Madueke's. It's a thunder bastard, isn't it? And Martinelli's was lovely and everything, but Martinelli's really reminded me of a goal that was really prevalent in FIFA
Yes.
about FIFA 2021. It was very prevalent for a bunch of years anyway, and many years before that, in fact. It's that cut inside R1 shot that just did your tits in. But it was lovely to see. He did really well, and it was nice to see him have a bit of a pop. I will say I think their keeper was shite on.
Okay. Well, he was there. Actually, he was their third choice.
I thought he was the how far away he was from this one. He seemed to be in a not brilliant position for it.
He was their third choice goalkeeper.
And then he was absolute shite when Gabriel Jesus hit the bar later on as well. It was very, very weird.
Yeah, Simon Mignolet was apparently their number one goalkeeper, but he was
he probably a step up in fairness. Because Christ on a bike, you're not investing much. This is why they have scored lots in the Belgian league and conceded lots as well. And that's what everything I seem to see is that defensively they're not great. But lovely to see him get it, and it was, as you say, it's nice to see him have a bit of ambition from that position and have a pop, because he gets his strike away nice and cleanly, and even if the keeper's in a better position, I think it's very, very difficult to stop that. It does catch him off the hoof.
Yeah, and that's 5 in 5 for he loves the European competition, so he's the first ever Arsenal player to score 5 in 5 successive appearances in the Champions League, and the first in major European competition since Henry in the UEFA Cup in 2000. In 2000.
I think it seems in the Champions League though, doesn't it? Because he does get that bit more space. There is a little bit more in the games, and it's a different environment for him. And I think I don't know if I'm making this up, but I'm sure last season he was more impressive in the Champions League for us then as well.
At
the time, and I think actually came into his own when we were playing in the last 16 and quarterfinals and so on. That coincided with him having a really good run as well. So I do think the environment suits him really well, and maybe it is just Trossard is better against the Premier League defence, and Martinelli is typically going to be better against a Champions League defence.
He said it in his interview in the pre-match presser, about there being more space and stuff, and that's maybe why he prefers it. And as I was talking about long-range goals, since the start of last season, no side has scored more goals from outside the penalty area in the Champions League than Arsenal with 9 goals. So, not set-piece FC. So, there we go. So
more set-pieces, more long-range goals, because I think we got the set-pieces down as well. So,
we're just the best full stop in Europe at everything. So but anyway, I think Rice has got a couple. Then since last season.
Well, we know the couple that Rice has got.
I'm trying to think of the. I'm just going through my head.
The most memorable European goals we've scored in about the last decade. Yeah, all right, fair one, mate.
I'm trying. I said, and the 2 last night. That's 4. So can you think of the other 5?
Supermendi, did he not whack one in from outside
the area?
Or was that
in Europe? That was in league against Forest,
wasn't it? All right, that wasn't.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Saka's got to have a curler somewhere.
His dodgy, his free kick, which was a bad free kick that went in. So that's 5. Trying to think who else we.
There must probably a Mikel Merino overhead from somewhere on the right hand touchline or something like that.
I think PSV, but no, they were all inside. There might be one of the PSV ones away was outside the box. Anyway, we could be here for a while, but anyway. So yes, we're good at scoring long range shots in the Champions League, and long may it continue. And then look, 3-0. The game was definitely over there, so we could start bringing the subs on, and Hincapié and Gyökeres off, Calafia and Jesus on. In 63, then Odegaard and Madueke off, and Saka for a bit of a run. His obligatory. It must be in his contract that no matter how much we're winning a game by, Saka has to come on and get some minutes. So it seems to be written in the contract. And when Eri came on, and due to my distractions, I didn't see too much of Wineri, but a lot of the talk is that he had a pretty decent cameo. So it seems like he looked lively and busy, a bit like Jesus, and then on the 82nd, Salmon White off, Salmon on. So it's a game over. And another good stat for you is that we've now won 10 consecutive group stage league phase games in the Champions League, scoring 30 and only letting in 3 goals, and that's just a ridiculous record. The only caveat with that is, and I think maybe said this before, is that English teams always seem to do well in the group stages, in the league stage, because we're sort of battle hardened during the winter. unfortunately, when it comes to winning season, all the teams in the farmers' leagues are putting their feet up, resting, and then ready and waiting for the English teams when it's April, May, when we're knackered, and they're rested. So we do well. However, it's later in the year that it becomes more of a challenge. So hopefully this year's a different.
There's domestic cups, and there's
sort.
the number of fixtures played as well, right?
Yeah.
And the number of competitive fixtures, I think, is definitely a thing. 100%. But then on top of that as well, there's also just that our fourth place team has got a good shot of winning the league in other places. But then once you concentrate it down to Bayern, Barca, Real, and PSG, or as it would have been, you'd have had Juventus there in some years.
Yeah, whatever.
But either way, you get down to the top 8 teams outside of the Premier League, and they are phenomenally good teams.
Yeah.
So that, I think, is the thing. But yeah, got to feel good about this year, though. Surely you've got a Real that aren't feeling that great, a Barca that aren't feeling that great.
Bayern and PSG. I mean, PSG, they drew 2-2 yesterday.
Bayern and PSG are the 2 teams to beat, I think, that season, aren't they? By a mile.
Yeah. And then
so
let's see what happens.
Us, domestic. PSG, Bayern, and City probably, and that's the elite right now.
And that's why finishing top 2, home advantage, and not playing the other team in the top 2 is so important. So Kuziva, anyone else that stood out for you last night and yesterday's performance that we haven't talked about?
I mean, I think we spoke about everyone. Maybe Raya would be an option. I think for me, it was my third best player. I mean, you read down your notes, how many shots they'd taken. And he was on his game as we trust him to be. And I think also good because sometimes he gets bored. So I'm glad that he's getting a little bit busy, getting.
He's no Ramsdale. Come on. So. Okay. I mean, for me, we did touch on it, but I think you said, from his quotes, but Zubimendi, he had a very good game yesterday. It's his first time he's done 2 assists in a game in 256 senior appearances, which I'm surprised about given his quality. And I think the first assist is a bit spurious. Fotmob didn't even give it to him, but because exactly. It's like, an assist for Madueke's first goal. It's a bit like Foden, put it on a plate for him.
I knew you were going to bring up Foden. I just knew it.
Had to. But he created 6 chances from open play, which is the most by an Arsenal player in a single game in all competitions. I think he had 10 final third entries. He won possession 8 times, 6 chances created, 4 duels won, 3 big chances created, 2 interceptions, 2 assists, and a partridge in the pear tree. He did well, and I think we should also call out Nordgaard. Coming in playing centre back, I think he did pretty good. And then Arteta called him out and said, look, he probably prepares the best of all of them. He always says this about the senior states who never get games. Somebody that makes us better every single day, playing any position, any condition, more or less minutes, it doesn't matter. But his attitude is always immaculate. Great example for all of us. And he does sort of come across as that type of player. So and he's got a very good record. We should play him more often because, as I said, despite playing a combined total of just 392 minutes, Nordgaard has ended on the winning side in all 8 of his appearances for Arsenal. So I just think, no matter what's happening, bring him on in the last minute, and we're guaranteed to win the game.
Yeah.
So there we go. So we are top of the league, 6 of 6, scored 17, let in 1 on 18 points, and next up is Bayern Munich on 15 points, and we've got a 5 better goal difference. And then in third is Paris Saint-Germain on 13, and Man City on 13. So we're doing pretty good. And next up is Inter on the 20th of January. So that's the Champions League done for this season this year. And it's been a pretty spectacular this year of Champions League, with some amazing results. And I think with a bit of luck, injuries and some Italian goalkeeper not just deciding to turn into Superman for one afternoon, we could have been winners. But it is what it is. And if you compare to the likes of Liverpool, who are in 9th, Tottenham in 11th, Newcastle in 12th, Chelsea in 13th, there is looking likely that they'll be playing 2 games in February, which we're going to avoid. So I think we've done a pretty good job. Doesn't guarantee anything other than some advantages, but I think we're the team to beat. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I now have a sneaky suspicion that Saliba, Gabriel, and Kai are fit, and they're just chilling, waiting for that running when everyone else is waiting. I guess trying
I,
to finish off the season.
I
Uh,
want them back sooner.
yeah, I'm 100%. But the guys who are playing right now, they do what needs to be done. But no,
Yeah.
I think this is incredible. Like we're in a really good place, and the fact that it just looks so good. You don't often see
Mm.
6-on-6, 0-0, and then one goal conceded.
Yeah.
I am quietly hopeful. Let's see what the rest of the season takes us, or where it takes us. Let's see our luck on injuries. That's probably the biggest one, right?
Mm.
And as per usual, take it one game at a time. Not to sound cliche.
No, and that one game at a time. Next up, back to the Premier League. I think the Champions League is always a nice distraction from the Premier League. It can be every game is so full of angst in the Premier League. Apart from this next one, Wolves are shit. Okay, we're playing Wolves at home, 8:00, and it is 8:00. I've checked and triple checked Jamie, so we're all good for 8:00. We'll all be there Saturday evening. By the sound of the discussion beforehand, we might be well oiled, but it should be fun. It should be fun. So, what are you looking forward to, Jamie, and not looking forward to as far as this game's concerned?
I'll start with not looking forward to. They've got a bit potential. A new manager bounce, and they've looked a bit better than they have done in previous weeks, right? So,
statistically, no. They're still rubbish. Lost 4-1 to Man United at home. Lost 1-0 to Forest at home. Lost 1-0 to Wolves. Lost away to Villa.
I think it was the Villa game. They looked particularly good in though.
That's
game
one
well,
game.
Looked bad in. I mean, that's the thing. They're looking better. I think is the operative bit there, right? Yeah, well, look. Just the fact that they've been an absolute laughing stock, and then they might look like they might have an opportunity not to be. What am I looking forward to? That they have been an absolute laughing stock for the majority of the season, and we should really be looking to do these quite easily. Because just to be honest, the quality of 11 they can put out, I think, might be it's certainly bottom 3 in the Premier League. That's why I am down for relegation myself, start of the season anyway. But unfortunately, they just have failed to retain anybody decent and failed to replace anybody that's gone. So I mean that's no Neto. You just look forward to a team that I really struggle to name who it is in that team that's potentially going to hurt us. There's some half decent role
Strand
players.
Larsen, maybe up front.
Strand Larsen's a guy who could be a half decent role player for somebody. He could go to a Newcastle and be their second striker. He could even potentially be our second striker, but he's not somebody that in and himself is some kind of massive threat to watch for.
No.
He's a solid, good centre forward that will play in the Premier League and top leagues for the rest of his career rather than going down with them. But otherwise, I don't think this is a good football team. So, as long as we're up for it, then I think we should really be looking to cruise a little bit.
Well, we'll be up for it, sure. Anyway,
Kuziva, I'm absolutely certain because again, it's an 8:00 kickoff on a Saturday, which I haven't been to in about fucking hell, I can't remember.
I'll see you at the.
I remember I was bloody leathered at the time, so
I'll see you in the land for the 12:30 kickoff. So there we go. Kuziva, what are you looking forward to? Not looking forward to?
So I had a different not looking forward to before Jamie just made me properly realize that it's an 8 p.m. show on a Saturday. So that's now that's in my mind and I can't take it out. But no, jokes aside, I think it's an opportunity to continue to start winning again. I know we only just lost the one, but it's always important to make sure you don't have another speed wobble, especially against a team like this. So I'm not looking forward to a speed wobble. We just have to step up. And then what I'm looking forward to is more rotation. I'm kind of grateful that Calafiori is suspended, so he can take a little bit of a break. And happy that MLS will get a few more minutes. We see Jesus come in, from the start. We see Nordgaard play CB, especially because he played CB today. Yesterday. I wouldn't mind us resting Timber again. So I'm looking forward to more rotation, given how tight things are this Christmas period, and how some of our backliners are dropping like flies.
Yeah, we'll come up to line up just after this. So for me, I'm not looking forward to, will Arsenal, as they have in the past, I don't think this iteration of Arsenal is that team, but in the past, we've been the ones to give a struggling team a lift. You know, we've always been that one that if you're struggling for form and you need a bit of a lift, go and play Arsenal at the Emirates, and we'll give you some points. Don't you worry. But I don't think we're that team. And also, I'm not looking forward to the crowd frustration when it's 0-0 after 30 minutes, because you can just imagine everyone's going to be like, "Oh, for God's sake, we should be beating these lot." And so that leads me to my looking forward to. I'm just looking forward to a ton of goals. I know it's not going to happen, but yeah, fingers crossed that this is a really bad Wolves side, and we'll get onto that. But first off, the lineup. So Kuziva, you were alluding to rotation. Jamie, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking Arteta's going to do for this game?
Do you know? Sorry, apologies.
That's all right.
Do you know?
I thought you were on mute.
I think it's a really interesting one because of where we've been for the last few weeks, and the half week's really hard to know because I think I've seen that Timber's 75% rated for this, so has the potential of being in or out. He's carrying it a bit, but he might be available. Brugge, the feedback out of the Brugge game will be a part of it. The fact that we're still going into a massively congested fixture list in the coming weeks as well. I really don't know. I think it's really hard to say. I think the players that will definitely play will be Raya. Saka will come back into the side, and then Zubimendi, and probably Rice gets himself back in the team, right? And then other than that, it's sort of somewhat up for debate. I think certainly in defence primarily, yes, it's kind of who's left. So Hincapié definitely plays.
Yeah.
Lewis Skelly therefore probably plays left back. So again, it's just who's available. Ben White's an interesting one because, as I say, if Timber's back, maybe he goes with Timber because, as you said, Ben White has played 3 90s in a row. So, I had a bit of an agonising choice in my FPL this week where I was trying to work out who was potentially going to start for us in defence and thinking I just went for the conservative choice of Hincapié in the end of Julian Timber. I wasn't going to take the chance that he wasn't going to play. So it is going to be an interesting selection. I think there are some that I can see. When I talk it through, there's some that are definite, but there are still genuine choices. Gyökeres over Merino is an option, but it is not an automatic because he did have a little bit of a poor game in Bruges. Jesus will hopefully will be on the bench, but I can't imagine there's any chance that he's going to get a start. And then Madueke versus Martinelli is a genuine choice, I think. Do you try the Madueke and Saka thing again with Madueke riding high off the game in Bruges and being ready to play more games, or do you go with Martinelli because he has had a decent little run at times? There's some genuine choices across the squad, and as players return, that's just going to become more and more of the thing, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, Arteta does like to do that. If someone's in form, play them. He's done that with Merino and stuff. So I didn't think about that with the Madueke. I mean, for me, I reckon he'll go strong. I think he'll go the strongest lineup, win the game, 60 minutes, make the changes, game state. I think that's what he'll do. This is Wolves. We've got a week before Everton, so we go from Saturday to Sunday. We've got a week before Everton, so there's no midweek game. So I think he'll go strong. I think Timber if he's fit, Saliba if he's fit, because again, do you want Timber's first game back to be away at Everton? Maybe bring him on a sub. I don't know, but Saliba, Hincapié, MLS. Rice, Odegaard, Zubimendi. Again, I think just to get Odegaard going again. And then Saka, Gyökeres. And I had Eze down here, but I think that Madueke thing might be interesting, just because of what you just said there. But the main thing is I think he will go big and then make changes. So I don't think the likes of Nordgaard will be there filling in various places. I don't think White will play again the 3 games, 4th in a row. Might be a bit much. I know. I think I said this last night, was that I think we're bringing back players back more robust. So rather than being literally just fit, right, go, it's we're going to make sure that you're properly fit and then you can last it out. So, look what's happening with Odegaard. Look what happened with White. 3-3. But again, I think it still needs to be managed. So I think go big, and then make the changes.
It's a choice as well. Again, right? It's a choice now. And I mean, I'll be honest. If he picked on form, I think for the player who's played best in that position this season, because he's not played as well when he's on the left, I'd actually go with Eze.
Yeah, I think I think this is like the partnerships of relationships. I think Eze and Marino is a better fit.
Yeah.
And then you've got Odegaard and Gyökeres as a better fit. And I think we need to get that Odegaard Gyökeres thing firing, getting the balls down the channels, getting Gyökeres feeding off Odegaard there, and having Odegaard try and fight Gyökeres, because we haven't seen that. We had not as such. We know.
I love Martin Odegaard, but that we haven't seen that is part of the case to potentially go with Eze and Marino.
No. What I mean, we haven't seen it because of fitness. So let's. I don't think Eze is that sort of player to do that sort of thing. I think Eze will play further forward, and we'd be running off Odegaard or off the back or something like that, as opposed to, I think we need to find. I think the intention at the beginning would be the Odegaard Gyökeres thing, and
I'd only contest that to say I think if you look at what Eze has done over a number of years for Crystal Palace, with being able to find the gallivanting Mateta and other strikers before him as well, trying to get beyond a back line, I think that really suits Gyökeres. Saying that, Wolves ain't going to be the one, because Wolves are going to come to us with about 12 players. all playing centre half. It's going to be a Tony Pulis style special, isn't it? But which would be the case for putting Odegaard in there to unlock, but then also can be the case to go Eze occupies that space where he manages to work his way away from.
It's a nice problem to have, and maybe he starts both of them.
And there's an option for both as well, for sure.
Well, actually, so maybe he starts both of them. So remember, he tried to do that. Was it against West Ham, and then Odegaard went off injured? So maybe he tries both of them. And Rice is still got the sniffles, or Zubimendi takes a rest.
Or Rice moves into the pivot, and you have a more aggressive pivot. And but my point is just you've got those options down midfield. So now that's there, and you've got you've got three guys who've been in really good form for most of the season, and you've got Martin Odegaard, who's not really had a patch of reasonable form in a bit. Martin Odegaard, like many other players coming back into the team at the moment, like Madueke, if he gets an opportunity, because and especially with Tross being gone at the minute and all this, guys that have an opportunity at the moment because the kind of the incumbent in the strongest 11, as we thought it was a month ago, is now absent or is needing a rest. Those guys have a huge opportunity, right? So this should be one of the games that if I'm one of those players, and that includes a Martin Odegaard, to be honest, I'm targeting it and going, I'm going to absolutely tear these guys a new one, because I need to, because in a month's time, there's either a place for me in this starting 11 or there's not. And this, certainly Wolves and Everton, I think, are the two games that I'm looking at and just thinking this is my opportunity if I'm one of those boys.
Yeah, and I think the one player that doesn't maybe need a rest is Zubimendi. So I think it makes maybe sense that you would see as a Rice. If Rice is available, then you've got Rice as a Odegaard midfield. So, and I wouldn't be adverse to that because it's Wolves. And they say, look, Wolves are terrible and they're on course to beat. Now I'm going big on this, and it's not going to bite me in the ass. It's not. On course to beat the Derby low points record. They're trending towards getting 5 points this season. They've got 2 points in 15 games. Won none, drawn 2, lost 13, scored 8, let in 33 goals. Derby got 11 points in the end. Wolves, they drew at home to Brighton, and the joke's always on Spurs. They drew away to Spurs, and that's only because Paulinho scored a ridiculous last-minute winner, and he ran off celebrating, taking his shirt off in the process, which was all very embarrassing given who they're playing. So, they concede 2.2 goals per match on average. They only score 0.5 goals, on average. They are objectively a very, very bad team, and look, we alluded to they've even with Rob Edwards, the new manager, they let in 4 against Man United. I don't know when he came in, but the last few games, 3 against Fulham, 3 against Chelsea, 2 against Palace. yeah, you're right. The outliers there, only losing 1-0 to Villa from a long range shot. Local derby-ish, got up for that one. Maybe the fans will be involved in that one, so that's maybe an example where that's the derby at play. They lost a close game to Burnley 3-2, but they are not very, very good. So and in the last few seasons, I mean, it's the last time we played them was the MLS Michael Oliver sending off, but we won with 10 men, Calafiori goal, and it was the beginning of the end for Kai, when it was sort of platoon-esque on the floor, just in bits. We've in the last 8 we've played 8, won 8, 4-17 against 2. So we've not lost since the 2021 season. Yeah, we've got to be winning this. So Kuziva, how much are we winning this by?
I'm going to say 5-0. It's one of those games that we just have to make a statement. And multiple scorers. That's what I think. 5-0, multiple scorers. Let's go.
Jamie?
So I'm half tempted by another 3-0. I'm going to go, I think I'm going to go with the 3 again. So 3-0.
Okay, and I've gone for 4. So we've gone 3-4-5. There we go. So nice one. And I think we might cover the basis from Moz and Ian on that one as well. So there we go. Okay, 70 minutes in. That's all right. Job done. Thanks, guys, for coming along and sharing your thoughts. Appreciate it.
It's good.
Thank you, Tab.
No worries. Good stuff. And look, you can follow us at The Grove AFC on Threads, Blue Sky, TikTok, Insta, whatever else is out there from the socials. It's at The Grove AFC, YouTube. Next show will be post-Wolves, pre-Everton. Most really on the Sunday, once Jamie's hungover is cured. And
it's not going to be me, Tabs, unfortunately.
No, it's not going to be you. Well, there you go. Then you can be as hungover as you like. And look, if you enjoy what you hear, give us a nice little comment and rating on the podcast apps. Really appreciated. Give us a follow. Give us a like. Give us everything. Give us your time and your ears and all that, and make sure that other people are listening too. Spread the word. Okay, so there we go. Thank you for listening. I'm on Christmas holidays, and until the next time, come on, you Gunners.